feel if you found out that someone is secretly collecting and selling your personal information? Would that make you upset? Unfortunately, this isn't a hypothetical. It's actually happening right now. Someone is profiting from your data, and that someone is known as a data broker. Hi, my name is Michael, and I'm from My Data Removal. We are your trusted partner in data privacy. In this video, we're going to look into the murky world of data brokers. We will talk about who these data brokers are, how they work, where they collect this information from, who buys the information, and more importantly, why are they allowed to operate? I'll explain the risks of these data brokers having your information and what you can do to protect yourself. A data broker is a company that collects, analyzes, and sells people's information as a business. Some of the biggest data brokers in the US are Experian, Equifax, Epsilon, Axiom, and CoreLogic. There is not much information about these companies because their business model relies on absolute secrecy. They often avoid labeling themselves as data brokers when they register their businesses. However, a report by Privacy Rights Clearinghouse gave us some insight. It showed that California and Vermont alone had 792 data brokers registered in 2021. Market research from last year revealed that North America makes up the largest share of the global data broker market, which is now worth over $280 billion. Now, according to WebFX, there are over 4,000 data brokers around the world. Axiom happens to be the biggest and collects over 500 million consumers' data worldwide, and each of those consumers has about 3,000 data points per consumer. Can you imagine that? And that's just one company. Now the question is, how do these data brokers make money from people's data, and exactly how do they work? The data broker industry can be divided into three main categories. One is search, two is marketing, and three is identity analytics. People search sites, collect data so that if you're a paying customer and you want personal information about anybody in their database, you can find it if you pay a fee. An example is TruthFinder or Intellius. Marketing-focused data brokers, on the other hand, they gather and sell data to create targeted advertising campaigns. They analyze consumer behavior and preferences to help businesses reach the right audience with personalized ads. And identity analytics-focused data brokers, they focus on risk mitigation. They collect and share data to verify identities and help companies detect fraud. So now, let's look into how these data brokers work. First, they gather lots of people's data. This is their business model. They gather this information from public sources like courthouses, voter registration records, and even census data. They also get data from online sources like social media, people's browsing histories, and mobile apps. This is typically through various online agreements that they have with each of these companies that they work with. When you sign up to a new service, for example, you often sign terms of agreement that allow data brokers to collect and share your personal information. Most consumers don't know that their data is being collected, which of course raises a lot of privacy concerns. We will talk more about this later in the video. So now that they have your data, then what happens next? Well, next, they do data processing. Using AI, data brokers analyze your data to identify patterns, infer specific details, and categorize profiles for marketing, risk, and any other use cases that their customers require. This process may vary for many different brokers that use their own proprietary algorithms. Once these data profiles are complete, these data brokers package and sell them to various businesses and organizations that they work with. For example, insurance companies buy data broker data to determine people's insurance rates and to decide whether to approve or reject an application. We will go more into this in detail later. Now, let's talk about exactly what types of data these data brokers collect. Essentially, data brokers can collect a wide range of information as long as it's publicly accessible or available online. According to EPIC, a nonprofit research center on data privacy, data brokers collect information such as your name, your address, your telephone number, your email address, your gender, your age, marital status, even income and political preferences. Sometimes they even collect information about your children and so much more. So, who buys all this information? Marketing companies are major customers of data brokers. They use purchase data to create targeted ad campaigns, like I said earlier. For example, in 2013, Facebook partnered with Axiom to improve its ad targeting. Axiom shared customer lists with Facebook, which then matched those lists with its users in its database to create what Facebook refers to as custom audiences. You can imagine these custom audiences to be specific groups like 15 to 25-year-olds living in Washington, D.C., who frequently buy burgers. With this kind of information, Facebook can now personalize burger advertisements to these users. Banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions also buy data from data brokers. These financial institutions use consumer data for credit decisions, insurance approvals, fraud prevention, and so many more use cases. For instance, in a case we covered in our previous video, LexisNexis, a data broker, had a data sharing agreement with the US automaker General Motors. LexisNexis sold data to insurance companies, which the insurance companies then use to decide if they will cover or reject an applicant. Another group that uses data from data brokers are employers who use it for background check on job applicants. For example, in the case of Smith versus LexisNexis, David Oscar Smith was rejected because a background report using LexisNexis data wrongfully stated that Oscar had a criminal record. The court ruled in favor and told LexisNexis that it was negligent for not ensuring the accuracy of the information in their databases. Initially, the jury awarded $75,000 in compensatory damages and $300,000 in punitive damages to Oscar Smith. However, LexisNexis appealed and the court reduced that amount from $300,000 to $150,000. Another agency is government agencies. They also buy data from data brokers. A recent report revealed that U.S. intelligence community, like the FBI or the CIA, they buy American citizens' information from data brokers. Now you may be wondering, why does the government need to buy data of American citizens from data brokers? Well, one reason is to enhance surveillance and monitor potential threats. Another reason is also bypass the legal constraints that are in place to protect government from spying on its citizens. Data brokers can provide U.S. citizen information that would typically require the government to get search warrant under the Fourth Amendment. But since data brokers are private entities, they can collect publicly accessible information and online data without needing any warrant. This helps the government avoid any backlash if they were to directly collect that information from citizens. Overall, the main buyers from data brokers are marketing firms, financial institutions, employers, government agencies, and there's a few more that we haven't mentioned today. Data brokers operate within a strong economics ecosystem that caters to powerful stakeholders, from billion-dollar companies to various government agencies. These billion-dollar companies rely on the data provided by data brokers, and they pay millions of dollars to these data brokers for this information to keep coming. So as you can see, there's significant demand and money involved, which is exactly why it's so hard to dislodge these data brokers or even properly regulate them. Next, we are going to discuss the problems with data brokers in general. There are three main problems with data brokers. The first and obvious one is privacy invasion. These data brokers often collect data on people they don't have a direct relationship with, so they typically do so without consent. And as you can see, this is a huge invasion of our individual privacy. The second big problem is that there's a huge potential for discrimination. Data brokers, they categorize people and create profiles based on the data they collect on people, but we don't know exactly how they evaluate people in their database. This means that you could be discriminated against based on income, race, health status, or any of the other variables that they use. As the Electronic Privacy Information Center puts it, we now live in a squad society where we don't know we are being evaluated based on information that are being collected about us that we don't know about. The third and final reason is that the data collected could actually be inaccurate. Just like we saw in the case versus Smith versus Nexus, data brokers may store information that's incorrect or outdated. This erroneous data can negatively impact your lives and mine. So the three main problems with data brokers are 1. Invasion of privacy, 2. Discrimination, and 3. Data inaccuracy. There are 2 more problems with data brokers that we'll discuss in a later part of the video. But for now, let's talk about a very important question which I'm sure you're also asking about. Why exactly are data brokers allowed to operate and how is this legal? Data brokers still operate despite many privacy concerns for 2 main reasons. The first is that they keep their business legal by collecting publicly available information. Public records are available to everyone and are in line with government regulations. For instance, copyright registrations with personally identifiable information can be viewed by anyone and even appear on Google search engine. This is because the Copyright Office is legally required to maintain and publicize copyright registrations. So as long as data brokers collect data from public sources, they are operating within the frameworks of the law. The second reason that data brokers are allowed to operate is because of their lobbying efforts. Data brokers heavily lobby US Congress in order to influence lawmakers and prevent strict regulations against their industry. In 2020, as an example, an investigation revealed that data brokers spent $29 million on lobbying lawmakers. Oracle, one of the largest data brokers, spent the most at $9 billion. In 2022, when the American Data Privacy and Protection Act was introduced, data brokers spent heavily on lobbying to make the bill less restrictive. For example, the large data company RELX, a UK-based company, they argued that the restriction of data sharing would negatively impact crime investigations. Overall, 5 data brokers spent about $1.7 million on lobbying. They claim to be lobbying on issues like data security, children's privacy, algorithmic bias, and AI. Eventually, though, the proposed American Data Privacy and Protection Act obviously failed to pass, partly due to the lobbying efforts of these data brokers. Data brokers remain legal because there is no comprehensive federal law to regulate them and is largely due to their aggressive lobbying efforts. Recently, there's been a proposal for the American Privacy Rights Act, which aims to establish a national data privacy standard. This act, if enacted into law, would give every American citizen control over their personal data, would place restriction on how data brokers can collect, use, and share consumer data. Now, the question is, will this act actually progress or will it fail like the American Data Privacy and Protection Act? Well, honestly, only time will tell. But given the past events, we can expect that data brokers will continue to lobby against it. Now that you know more about data brokers and why they're still operating, it's time to share with you 2 major risks of data brokers having your data. The first risk is that the information that data brokers have about you can be breached. In other words, your data can be stolen by hackers from those data brokers. An analysis showed that 10 major data broker breaches compromised over 400 million users' records and nearly 200 million of those were Americans. Researchers found that out of the 506 data brokers registered in the US, 23 of them have already experienced a data breach. As you can see in this graph, some of the largest data broker breaches, including People Data Labs, Apollo.io, ShareThis, Poshmark, and Exactus. One reason that data brokers get hacked easily is their weak database security. For example, in 2019, Limelight, a data broker based in San Francisco, California, did not set up password for its internal server. This allowed anyone to be able to access their database. And as a result, data on 49 million people, including their email addresses, their phone numbers, and their home addresses, were up for sale in a hacking forum. So that's how vulnerable data brokers are and how unsafe your data can be with them. The second risk is that bad actors like predatory loan companies, scammers, and even foreign agents can get and misuse your information. I've already covered how scammers can get your data from data brokers in our previous video, but just to recap, scammers can obtain your information from data brokers, including people search sites. If the information isn't enough, they might gather more data from social media platforms. Once they have all the needed information, then they pick their target. They may use data from data brokers to choose targets based on the financial status, interest, and vulnerabilities. Then they'll craft their own scam messages, emails, or calls. Using the information from data brokers, they can make the scams significantly more convincing and tailored to a specific target. When everything's ready, the scammer executes the scam, and this scam can be anything from identity theft, financial fraud, or even the grandparent scam. So to sum it up, aside from invasion of privacy, potential discrimination, data inaccuracy, data brokers put your data at risk of being breached and being misused by scammers. So the last question which you may have is, what can you do about all of this? Here are 2 things you can do today to protect your privacy and those of your loved ones. While it can be difficult and time-consuming, you can actually remove your information from data broker sites. Here's how to do it. First, go to www.mydataremoval.com. There, you can run a free scan to see which data brokers have your information. Make a list of every data broker that has your information. The major data brokers to look at is Spokeo, Oracle, Experian, and Intellius. You can also find the list of over 300 data brokers in our free opt-out guides. Next, you need to find out the opt-out process for each data broker. The process varies and there may be exceptions. For example, some sites won't show you what data they have on you, so you have to hope they remove it when you ask them. This is called a blind removal. Other sites will show you all the data they have, but may require you to pay to have it removed. Usually, the process involves filling out a form or clicking a confirmation link. For instance, with Oracle, you send the opt-out request and wait for confirmation. If you don't receive confirmation, contact the data broker to verify your request or search your name online to see if the data still appears. After that, move on to the next data broker site and repeat that process over and over again until you're done. It's highly recommended that you remove your data every 6 months at the very minimum, because some website will add your information back if they find it from other sources. So there you have it. That's the process of removing your information from data broker sites. It's a very time-consuming process. So that's everything. I've shared with you all I can about data brokers. I hope this video was eye-opening for you as it was for me. I hope it answered your questions and that maybe you will remember the tips that I've shared to protect your personal information. Now it's your turn. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about knowing that data brokers are collecting and selling your information? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't, please subscribe and click the notification bell. You can also check out our previous privacy-related videos. Again, this is My Data Removal. We empower you with the knowledge to protect your most valuable asset, which is your data. Stay safe and see you on the next video. Thank you.